Order the extraordinary general meeting for iCreate Limited for today, and we'd like to thank everyone for attending. So we have persons in person present. Thank you very much for attending, and for persons online, we also acknowledge persons present. The notice of the extraordinary general meeting was circulated on August 2 along with the agenda. So we'll take those as accepted. During the window for questions, there haven't been any matters or issues related to that. So all in favor? Okay, thank you. No objections? Thank you very much. At this time, I will pray. Heavenly Father, we just want to give you thanks. Thank you for the guidance that you have so far given to the leadership as well as management and team members for iCreate Limited, guiding the company through this time, a period of challenges as well as of growth, and taking us here. As we gather for this EGM, we welcome your presence, the presence of the Holy Spirit, and ask that you guide and give wisdom for this meeting. Thank you. In terms of, again, just to welcome everyone present, we do want to do that. The main focus of today is something that's not new to everyone because it would have been taken previously, and you would have seen the circulation in terms of looking at the acquisition primarily. What we're looking at is the acquisition of Visual Vibe Limited. We'll receive a presentation on that for more information. There was one question raised, so the question we had will be taken at the end of that presentation, and we'll just go through that primarily today. So thank you for taking the time to be here, both in person as well as online, for this EGM in terms of looking at that matter. For apologies, we have apologies for absence for two of our directors. Those are directors Mr. Ricardo Allen as well as Mr. Stephen Hector. Neither able to join either in person or online. However, if there's any change and they want to just nudge presence online, then they can certainly let us know. With respect to the confirmation of the minutes of the EGM that was held on Friday, May 27, I'm going to ask for, or really just invite a motion for those minutes to be taken as read based on circulation. May I have a motion for those minutes to be taken as read, please? Okay, so I have a motion from Director Adrian Smith and second by Mishage Wilson. Thank you very much. In terms of matters arising from the minutes, are there any questions? Were there any questions? Yes. Okay, so we'll take that start. All right. Thank you very much for that. Any questions from the minutes of the previous meeting, which have been run? Okay, thank you. You noted that. You had a question, or you noted everything? All right, you're good. So there were no matters and no questions. At this time, I will invite Mr. Tyrone Wilson, whom you all know, President and Chief Executive Officer of iCreate Limited, to take us through a presentation to share more information before we come to the main purpose of this meeting in terms of the resolutions for today. So I invite Tyrone Wilson for the presentation at this time. Thank you.
One clap. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tyrone Wilson. I'm the President and CEO for iCreate Limited. Let me welcome you all to our extraordinary general meeting of our shareholders, EGM. I'd like to recognize members of the Jamaica Stock Exchange who are here with us. Welcome, thank you. Of course, acknowledge our directors who are here in person. Chairperson Arlene Martin, Adrian Smith, who else we have in person? Myself. We have our corporate secretary here in person, Mr. Dimitri Adams, and from the iCreate leadership team, we have Dwight Burchell, our Chief Financial Officer, Declan Tully, who is our Chief Revenue Officer. I'd like to welcome them, and also, last but not least, our shareholders of iCreate. Thank you all for those who are here in person and for those who are online. How many we have online right now? Okay, we have 56 shareholders who are online. And of course, we will get a register of those shareholders when they do register to vote via our portal. So what I'm going to share here today first is, why are we here? A notice was sent out to have an extraordinary general meeting of our shareholders, which is really to vote on a few critical items that are related to the next step that we're making as a company. And primarily is our rights issue to put forward to our shareholders to approve for us to have our rights issue that will aid in completing the acquisition of Visual Vibe Limited, and also to approve the conversion of two loans that forms part of the acquisition of Visual Vibe, and of course to vote to increase or issued share capital of the company, and waiver of our preemptive rights that is related to the conversion only and not to the rights issue. As we know, we'll be exercising our preemptive rights where that is concerned. So I remember in January we had our annual general meeting for iCreate, and what we presented there was a new iCreate. We presented the way forward coming out of COVID-19 pandemic, having gotten capital injection from Kentire Holdings Limited and Equity Capital Management Limited that enabled us to really, infuse the company with well-needed cash and, put us on the path of a solid turnaround for the company. At that AGM, we showed just how the company is structured, how it will be structured going forward, some of the things that we wanted to achieve, and the vision for the business for this year and moving forward. Since then, we embarked on our mission to grow the company. We've delivered 2 consistent quarters of record revenue and record profit. Our recent Q2 showed our half-year earnings about 238% increase in revenue and around the same in profits, 16 million in profits from 88 million in revenues, 80.1 million in revenues, and 238% thereabout increase when compared to the corresponding period in 2021. That is an indication of what we'll be doing going forward and what we've been up to at iCreate. And what I have for you today is a presentation around the company, where we're going on this acquisition of Visual Vibe Limited and what it will mean for our shareholders of iCreate. All right, so nothing. Can go to the next slide now. One thing with technology, 1 second, team. It's off. All right, it's back. Use the arrow. All right, next slide. Okay, so just a quick background of iCreate. It's always good to reintroduce ourselves. iCreate came from humble beginnings with seed capital and a dream to train the next generation of digital and creative leaders. Backed by a strong vision, we listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange in 2019, only one of 2 companies to have done so as a startup and the first education company to list. In early 2022, which I mentioned just now, the company embarked on an aggressive merger and acquisition strategy to realize the vision towards becoming a conglomerate. The opportunity to broaden the digital and creative footprint arose early this year with the latest planned acquisition of Visual Vibe Limited, a leading digital out-of-home billboard advertising company, right? So what's happening now, team, is that iCreate has expanded significantly compared to how we started in 2019 when we listed, and in 2018. Up top is our training division, right, where we have the iCreate Institute, and that's how we started out. To date, we've expanded the scope of iCreate. Our advertising division now is our largest division once we've completed the acquisition of Visual Vibe and our agency, Vertical Creative Limited, and we have a joint venture that we'll be speaking about later down this year. We have our media and entertainment division. We haven't launched that out fully as yet, but as you know, we did a digital version of Reggae Sunsplash in 2020. Our tech and e-commerce with the acquisition of Get Paid Limited, and our real estate division, which is a creative city. All of these are what we expect to fuel our growth going forward as a company, help us to achieve our 2-to-1 strategy, which is 2 million US in revenue, 1 million USD in profits that we plan to achieve over the next few months. Next slide, please. This is our capable board of directors. Our chairperson, Arlene Martin, who is here with us today. Ricardo Allen, founder and CEO of 101, who just completed their record-breaking IPO. Dana Joy Wint, which is a member of our audit committee. Mr. Steve Hector, Group Sales and Marketing Director for ATL Automotive. Myself, L.E.A.R.N Peart, who is online, CEO and founder of Blue Dot, which we all know. Adrian, CEO of Dequity. I don't know why they're correcting your spelling here, Adrian. They don't understand. And CEO of Delta Capital, Ivan Carter, which is online with us. So we have a very strong, capable board of directors. We have 2 committees, our HR committee and our HR committee and our audit committee. L.E.A.R.N is the chair of our HR committee, and Ivan Carter is the chairperson of our audit committee. Ivan is a former group chief financial officer for Sagicor Group Jamaica, and now the CEO of Delta Cap. We've been working very closely together because we know that this merger and acquisition plan is very aggressive and it requires careful planning and guidance. And we're happy to have Ivan on the team to guide us. As we all know, he's way more capable than most of us as it relates to mergers and acquisitions, having overseen many of those during his time at Sagicor Group. Next slide, please. This is our academic advisor council that leads the oversight of iCreate's course development, course acquisition strategy. Lysandra Rickards, Aileen Corrigan. Some of these titles have to update soon, and Professor Bernadette Warner. It's our leadership team. It's a long list, but all the heads of the different division, and our group function, our CFO, and our Chief Revenue Officer. So we're here today because iCreate is really expanding. I mentioned that just now. We all know in 2019 we listed, iCreate was slow to get out of the blocks in terms of growth. We recorded 58 million in revenues and approximately 32 million in losses. We expanded, however, to additional locations in Montego Bay and Trinidad and Tobago, where we utilized the funding raised during that time at the IPO. The company in 2020 began to show, that we've been stabilizing the company. Our Q1 results showed revenue of approximately 24 million and profits of 1.8 million, which was our first quarterly profit for the company. As we all know, later down, COVID pandemic came in about late March, and like every other company in Jamaica, we had to go on the defense. Having recorded those losses in 2019, we were battered more than many other companies on the market, and we had to close down our location. So we closed down Kingston, we closed down Montego Bay. iCreate was one of the first company on the market to really outline our COVID strategy in terms of what we're going to do to pivot and grow. So we're in the final stages now, regardless of really moving into what we call iCreate group of companies. We've survived COVID-19. We're moving forward. We've gotten additional capital. We've gotten rid of the debts, the taxes, the burden that held us back in 2019, 2020, 2021. And iCreate is a new, fresh, fast-growing company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. This is our historical performance. 2018, 31 million in revenue, 31 million in operating losses, 46 million in 2019 in revenue, 46 in losses in 2019, same picture in 2020, better in terms of reduction of our losses in 2021. But this is where I want us to focus on right now. 2022, right? This is showing the new picture for iCreate. And we've invested the capital we raised last year from Equity, from Kentare Holdings. Prior to raising those funding, the picture for iCreate was a very bleak one. We had significant amount of payables, including taxes, including partners of iCreate and so forth. We weren't growing, revenues were declining, but we decided to stick to it. We presented to our friends at Equity. They love the vision, they love the idea of iCreate. I had injected 18.3 million in May of 2021, and they followed with 50.5 million in iCreate. At the time, our stock price was around 70 cents, 75 cents. But we believed in the company. We listed at $1. We were down. We believed in the company. We wanted to move forward. And this is where we are today. So at Q2, we had a solid team. Declan, our Chief Revenue Officer, is here. All things revenue are driven through him. We improved on our financial reporting. Dwight being our CFO, we met all our timelines in terms of our quarterly reporting, having missed quite a lot in the past. We're now on track in terms of meeting all our timelines. We've met our Q1, Q2 quarterly unaudited statements on time. We delivered 80.1 million in revenue, 18.06 million in operating profit, and 16.5 million in profit. Today, next slide, please. Next one, sorry. Forward. No, just go forward. Right. So what we're seeing is today, iCreate now, at the end of July, our stock price is $4.68, having started the year at 79 cents. This makes us the best performing stock on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, both junior and senior, in terms of percentage increase year to date. And I think, you know, a lot of folks really try to figure out why this has been happening, but I think it's because of you, our shareholders, who have believed in us, who continue to buy the stock. You've seen the vision in January. You see where we want to take the company. You invested your own money. We're grateful for that. And now really taking iCreate to the next level. So we'll feel the vibe. Go forward for me. So now it's about Visual Vibe Limited, right? A couple months ago, we would have sent out our notice to the Jamaica Stock Exchange that iCreate have signed an agreement to acquire 100% of Visual Vibe Limited. In becoming a creative group of company, we have been in conversations with the Visual Vibe team, believe it or not, from as far back as 2018. But we found that the timing was best last year, having gone through the pandemic, learned the lessons, and accelerated our plans in becoming a creative group of companies. Visual Vibe fits perfectly within our mandate. And I say for a number of reasons. One, it's digital outdoor advertising, so it fits within the two spaces that we pride ourselves in, digital and creative, right? So it's a part of the digital and creative field. There are obvious synergies between Visual Vibe and our creative agency, Vertical, obvious synergies in terms of training, obvious synergies in terms of everything that we're doing. But most importantly is how iconic this company is. Like iCreate being a pioneer, being a first mover, Visual Vibe is one of those first leaders also, first movers. Established 15 years ago, Visual Vibe have 13 locations island-wide, and it's some of the most iconic locations that we know. The most important one, I would say, or the most iconic one, is what we call Beijing Square in Tree, which is where we watch the Olympics and World Champs every 2 years, every 4 years, right at Mandela Park. That's one of our locations. We have another iconic one at Ronnie Williams Entertainment and Oak Road. And when you're in New Kingston on the intersection of Knutsford Boulevard and Trafalgar Road, we also have another location there. Visual Vibe serve a number of blue chip companies. Campari, Ray & Neville, Supreme Ventures, NCB, Flow, you name it. All the blue chip companies who are looking for ways to connect with their audiences via digital means choose Visual Vibe. But most importantly is the performance of the company, right? Visual Vibe will join an already profitable iCreate, but it will more than double our performance year to year. This is the chart around the performance of the company. 2019, we see a revenue of a little bit over 160 million, operating profit of a little bit over 80 million, and net profit of over 60 million. And I can say to you that this net profit here is consisted of depreciation of about 18 million, which is non-cash. So our EBITDA is very strong. 2020, we all know what happened. The pandemic came. The company did not waver, slightly reduced in terms of revenue, slightly reduced in terms of operating profit and net profits. 2021, pandemic continued, revenue remained the same, operating profit and net profits pretty much the same. So this company was COVID proof, right? As people shut their doors, as companies struggle, advertisers still found the Visual Vibe boards and locations of a critical means to communicate with their customers. Even through no movement days and everything, companies still stayed with Visual Vibe. This is in 6 months in 2022. Same performance here. But I think the most important thing to note is that Visual Vibe has a little bit over 10% of its revenue in receivables, just a little bit. So that means on a yearly basis, the company collects 90% of its revenue. So it's cash flow heavy, the free cash flow is strong from the company, and consistently dividends are paid to its founders and shareholders. And we all know what that will mean for iCreate. We'll be adopting a similar dividend policy from approval of our board of directors, but we are looking to ensure that in making this acquisition, iCreate can now distribute dividends to its shareholders. And we all know we have been waiting for that, right? Next slide, please. This is just a graphical representation of some of the locations. So Portmore, Manor Park, Ochoria, Spanish Town, Downtown. We capture all the demographics in Jamaica. It's probably the only digital outdoor company that have a broad spectrum in terms of the demographics in Jamaica, right? Not just, well, I'll come to that later. Next slide, please. So yes, we're making this investment, but I want to also bring in context for our shareholders what this means. Visual Vibe is part of a fast-growing industry. Out-of-home advertising, that they call it OOH. In our field, it's a subsector, digital out-of-home, DOOH. Saw a 10% increase in 2019, which was as a result of the digital aspect. So just to bring some context, OOH is everything, which involves still billboards. It involves the still ads that you see when you enter like a hotel and so forth that is managed by other companies. The DOOH is a subsector, the digital out of home network, right? The overall industry saw a 10% increase in 2019, and these are research done through PwC, right? Which that increase is 319 million US, and is projected to increase to 1 billion by 2027. And that 10% increase was as a result of the digital component. So it's the fastest growing subsector of the out of home industry. The major players in OOH are from Australia, Brazil, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Japan, Russia, South Korea, UK, and the USA. And this shows the potential for us at Visual Vibe. We're not limited to just Jamaica. We're looking to expand across the globe where this company is concerned. We're looking for opportunities that we can expand the company. Next slide, please. All right, next, before I'll come to this one after I can go to it. Right. Leadership is critical. Declan Tully, you can maybe just join me a quick second, will be the Chief Executive Officer of Visual Vibe. I think Declan is a behind the scenes man, but we're bringing him up front a little bit. So meet Declan Tully is the Chief Revenue Officer of iCreate. Upon completion of the acquisition, he'll take over the leadership of Visual Vibe. Declan is coming from Digicel, where he was first a Chief Revenue Officer for Trend Media, which is a division of Digicel that handles Loop and all the digital marketing, digital advertising networks, and so forth. He presided over the biggest growth in terms of Trend Media. And then shortly after, he took over as director, CEO of Trend Media, and he managed over 23 markets across the Caribbean. So we feel like Declan is the right man for the job, obviously, based on his experience around digital, not just in Jamaica, but coming from in the UK, and his understand. Yeah. In Ireland, not the UK, where he managed a significant amount of brands in terms of digital, and just his experience in terms of digital within the Caribbean. We're looking to expand our partnership from just a chief revenue officer to really driving the mandate for Visual Vibe going forward. Thank you, Declan. I'll assume the role of executive chairman, where my vision is just really expansion. Yes, we'll be acquiring Visual Vibe, but there are a number of activities that we need to do. We're looking at a few other merger opportunities with Visual Vibe to really expand it. We're not just going to buy it and sit. We're also negotiating a financing partnership with one of our partners to secure some form of investment to expand Visual Vibe in Jamaica, upgrade our screens to some of the new resolution, and really, bring Visual Vibe to play not just in outdoor but indoor and so forth, and become the number one in terms of out of home advertising. So we're looking for that partnership. Can go back 1 second. And this is just to give a scenario. We all know what iCreate looked like at the end of June 2022. And this is just a scenario. Visual Vibe was counted, right? 151 million in revenues and 34 million in profits. And that is the type of performance we're looking forward to going into 2023, sorry. We're very excited about it. We are looking to launch our rights issue to complete the acquisition. We've already paid down the requisite deposit. And with your vote and support today, we expect to get your approval to move forward with executing our rights issue, which will be led by VM Wealth, and our attorneys over by Patty Samir Hamilton, PMH. And we're looking to close this before the end of September 2022 so that we can have Visual Vibe rolled up and being a part of the iCreate group of companies moving forward. So I thank you for listening to us, getting an understanding of our vision and where we want to take Visual Vibe, where we want to take iCreate. And now we'll move into the formalities. I wanted to do this so that we can get a full understanding of what you'll be voting for today. So, 1 second. Okay. I think we'll go into questions after the vote. Yeah. Let me know. Now the votes, question. Okay. Yes, sorry about that. So we wanted to give context so you can understand where we're going with iCreate, with Visual Vibe and the new iCreate group of companies. We're excited about it, and we're looking forward to your support today as we move forward to close in on this rights issue. So we'll move into the next segment. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, please. All right, thank you very much. So we're actually now, pardon me, we're still in COVID, so I'm still doing my best to observe the measures to avoid the spread of COVID. Not that I have it, but we just have to be careful. So we're going to move into the real purpose in terms of the matters arising, which is the voting on the resolutions. So at this time, what we're going to be moving into, as mentioned, is the voting. Hold on. So I just want to make a note. Thank you very much. That's our company secretary, Dimitri. In terms of the resolutions, on the notice that was circulated. Okay, one moment. Yes, go ahead, please. Okay, so we have a motion for the resolutions to be taken using a poll, and we have a second for that. We're going to invite the votes for that motion, which is that we use the poll for the voting on the resolution. So persons online can just use the poll feature for that vote, and we'll take votes here in favor. We're good? All right, thank you. Noted, no objections. So we basically have no objections to that. All right, thank you very much. So in the notice that was issued on August 2, the resolutions were accurate. However, on the agenda, on the second page, and this is the third paragraph down, which is the first paragraph where it says, be it resolved that, we do have a correction in the third line. So we'll note that as we go through the process. I just want to note that we do have a correction on the agenda, but it is accurate on the notice that was issued. So we're going to go through with the voting on the resolution circulated in the notice of the extraordinary general meeting, and that notice was issued on August 2, 2022. So what we have here, it's an ordinary resolution for approving the proposed rights issue and obtaining of convertible debt financing. Both of these were mentioned by Mr. Wilson. Whereas the board of directors of the company has over time considered the benefits of raising debt and or equity financing to enable it to complete the acquisition of visualvibes.com Limited, which is the acquisition. The company requires additional capital funding in order to continue its growth strategy by pursuing several mergers and acquisitions. On May 19, 2022, the board of directors of the company passed a resolution subject to the approval of the shareholders of the company and any regulatory approvals that may be necessary, authorizing the company to consider raising the sum of 425 million Jamaican dollars by way of a rights issue, offering to the existing shareholders the opportunity to subscribe for additional ordinary shares in the capital of the company, the proceeds of which will be relied on to complete the acquisition. On July 18, 2022, the board of directors of the company passed a resolution subject to the approval of the shareholders of the company, authorizing the acceptance by the company of convertible debt financing of 100 million Jamaican dollars and 400,000 United States dollars, collectively referred to as the loans, to be provided by Astronomical Holdings Limited and Kintar Holdings Limited respectively, and the proceeds of which will also be relied on to complete the acquisition, with the intent that the loans will be converted to ordinary shares or at a conversion price, as will be the same as the subscription price fixed for the ordinary shares proposed to be made available for subscription pursuant to the rights issue. And the directors and the company secretary wish to be authorized to execute all steps and documents in order to implement and effectuate the rights issue and the allotment of the shares not taken up by the allottees as the directors shall deem fit. The directors and the company secretary wish to be authorized to execute all steps and documents in order to obtain the convertible debt financing to be offered by the loans and to grant the rights for conversion of the loans to ordinary shares on the terms hereinbefore described. So at this time, we'll open to the vote, and I know we have the polls online. So at this point, we'll do the online voting and we'll open for votes here to be recorded by our company secretary. So all in favor? Okay, so it's read by each. All right. So not by all. All right. So we'll do for each. Thank you very much. So each resolution, as they are read, they're going to be online as well, so that persons will be able to see it. You're present, you would have had the copies, but these were circulated so that they're visible for persons online as well. And then we'll do the voting for each. As I said, for the first, it's accurate in the notice that was issued. If you're referring, however, to the agenda, there's going to be a correction in the first one. So be it resolved that, this is number one, the company hereby approves the offer for subscription of ordinary shares in this resolution, new ordinary shares, as part of the authorized capital of up to 212,500,000 ordinary shares, with the option to upsize at such greater amount as the directors in their absolute discretion may approve, currently unissued for the purposes of raising capital for the benefit of the company, the same to be offered to the holders of ordinary shares or stock prices by way of a rights issue on such terms, including the number of new ordinary shares, the price per new ordinary share, the proportion of new ordinary shares to be offered in relation to existing ordinary shares or stock units held by the holders thereof, and the record date for determining the eligibility of such ordinary stockholders to subscribe for new ordinary shares, in each case as the directors and or any duly appointed committee of directors shall deem fit and approve, and the resulting issue of the ordinary shares pursuant to the rights issue. So at this point, we open for voting number one. So persons voting for number one in favor? Oh, please, clearly please by raising your hand so that it's visible. We're still counting, so please keep your hands up for me. You got it? Okay. So we're confirmed, and we're just giving online the participants enough time. Completed? Okay. So the link has been shared. So we'll move to number two. Okay. So relating to no. Okay. Okay. So once I read number 2, there is one question that's related to it. So we just want to have that clarification. Mr. Wilson will do that clarification for us. So the second, the company hereby approves the acceptance by the company of convertible debt financing by way of the loans of 100 million Jamaican dollars and 400,000 United States dollars to be provided by Astronomical Holdings Limited and Kintar Holdings Limited respectively, with the intent that the loans will be converted to ordinary shares at a conversion price of no less than 10% discount in relation to Astronomical Holdings Limited and a premium of 10% in relation to Kintar Holdings Limited at subscription price fixed for the ordinary shares proposed to be made available for subscription pursuant to the rights issue. So at this point, just a clarification, and then I'll open for voting.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple clarifications. Number one, I know a few shareholders are concerned about the preemptive rights. Now, just to clarify that the preemptive rights is not related to the rights issue itself. You're not voting to waive your preemptive rights for the rights issue. This is only connected to the conversion of the debt to equity from Kintar Holdings and Astronomical Holdings. However, for Astronomical Holdings, these shares will be held by its subsidiary, AHL SPV Limited. So you're only waiving your preemptive rights for the conversion of those debts. And the reason why the company have sought to raise those debt financing before is that in acquiring Visual Vibe or signing the agreement to acquire Visual Vibe, there were certain contractual obligations on our part where we had to pay a certain amount of funds at a certain amount of time to, one, effect the agreement, and two, deliver on our obligations to acquire the company. So again, you're not waiving your preemptive rights as it relates to the conversion of the debt to equity. Sorry, you're waiving your preemptive rights only for the conversion of the debt to equity, and you're not waiving your preemptive rights as it relates to the rights is to exercise. You'll get your full rights as a shareholder in that activity. Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you very much. So we now open for voting. So we're voting on number 2. Persons in favor, again, if you could indicate by show of hands in order for us to make a count. Okay, noted. Anyone against for persons in person? Anyone against? Okay. And we would have the poll online for persons participating. That link would have been open for voting on item number 2. We'll now move to number 3. Any preemption rights to which the existing shareholders may be entitled, howsoever arising, be and are hereby disapplied for the purpose of the implementation of the rights issue and the obtaining and or securing of the convertible debt financing hereinbefore described. So for number 3, we'll open for voting on this resolution as well. So for persons in person, if you may indicate no, show of hands. So this one was a short one, so if we can just give the persons online enough time to complete that before I start reading the next one, which is also short, so we're just going to allow, again, another minute or so for the persons online. So for number 4, The directors be authorized to dispose of all such new ordinary shares not taken up by holders of ordinary shares or stock units to whom the offer pursuant to the rights issue is made on terms and conditions as the directors may consider expedient in their absolute discretion. So we'll open for votes now. So the poll would be sent for the persons online to vote on number 4, and we'll open now for persons present in person to vote. So you may indicate now for item 4. So that was no one against. Anyone against? Okay, thank you. We'll again just give a little time for persons online. Okay, so for number 5, the directors and the company secretary do execute all steps and documents and are hereby authorized to execute all steps and documents in order to implement and effectuate the rights issue and the convertible debt financing in each case as described in the notice of extraordinary general meeting dated August 2, 2022, and to dispose of all such new ordinary shares not taken up by the L.E.A.R.N pursuant to the rights issue on terms and conditions as the directors may consider expedient in their discretion in consultation with the arranger for the rights issue aforesaid VM Wealth Management Limited. So we'll now open for voting. So for in person, all persons in favor? Persons against? Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone against? So no objections. And before we move to any other business, we're just going to give a little time for the persons online, just in order to have their participation complete the poll in terms of the voting on that final resolution. And then we'll look to any other business. All right, thank you for your participation in this section, which is the main purpose of being here in terms of the resolutions here for this extraordinary general meeting. At this point, as we look at any other business, are there any questions? So open to questions for persons online, persons present with us this afternoon. Do you have any questions? 20 seconds, 10 seconds. Are there any questions online? Well, we took questions for the resolutions after each resolution, so this would be general questions if there are any other questions. All right. The company secretary will join you to just address those. So we're reviewing the questions in terms of being able to address those. So while we don't have any in person, we're looking at those online to be able to address those. So Mr. Wilson will address one question now.
All right. Good afternoon again. All right. The question that was posed online is there any potential from Damani Walder, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Is there any potential for Visual Vibe to get into digital advertising boards, street level that is?
Okay, thank you. Street level, right? I think I mean, we're not ruling out anything, I would say. Obviously, through the billboards, the digital billboards were already street level, but I guess that's maybe in terms of street. I'm not clear in terms of where. Oh yeah, I'm talking. I'm not clear in terms of where street level would mean, but we're in the streets, I would say. But we're not ruling out any opportunity for expansion, is what I would say. Thank you.
This question was submitted by Dr. Philip Burgess. Well, two questions. I think the first one was already answered by Tyrone in his presentation. But the first question was, why couldn't the disapplication of preemption rights be resolved regarding the convertible debt only, while leaving the rights issue as a separate resolution with shareholders maintaining their preemption rights in that regard?
Yeah, that's a good question by Philip. I think we addressed it just now. And just to reiterate that by nature of a rights issue, you're actually exercising your preemptive rights. So the only note about waiving of preemptive rights is in relation to the conversion of the debt to equity, which obviously it's through us wanting to meet our contractual obligations as it relates to the acquisition of Visual Vibe. So that's the only waiver. Not necessarily, well, not at all in relation to the rights issue. And that will be clear in our rights issue circular once we have approval from the regulators to distribute that.
And the second question was, how will you address the fact that this raise will exceed the junior market limit? Planning to migrate, and I guess the migration is to the main market.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely. With this raise, it will put us above the allocated amount or the regulatory amount in terms of 500 million equity raise. So iCreate would have gone above the 500 million. We're actively looking at a number of options. We're in conversation with our attorneys. We're also in conversation with our investment partners at VM Wealth to see what the best move is, whether it's a migration in terms of moving to the senior market or remain in a junior market company, but losing some of those benefits as it relates to, you know, being over the 500 million. So that communication will come at a later date.
We'll take two more questions from online. This one is from L.E.A.R.N. Good day. Many different arms were outlined earlier. How many are currently profitable?
All, all are profitable. Thank you.
And, and this one is from Greg Lindo. What is the approximate purchase consideration for Visual Vibe?
Our raise in the rights issue will be a minimum of 425 million. That will involve the acquisition of Visual Vibe. It will also involve clearing the bond that we have with Sagicor, and it will also involve the working capital as it relates to our further expansion of Visual Vibe. And then, of course, the debt that we're converting to equity will be a part of that. So we're not going to disclose the exact acquisition price at this moment. It will be in further documents for competitive reasons. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There may be additional questions online. For the questions online, we'll have the responses online directly. You'll be able to have access to the recording, so you'll be able to see those. However, we have no other questions here. And so what we'll do is, we do have a question. Thank you, sir, please. Moment, can everyone hear?
Yes, my name is Marston Gordon. It doesn't appear, you're just talking about the share capital, increasing share capital. But for one, shares are not priced in the rights at this point, or we are not aware of the share price. How do we determine that we're going to likely exceed the share capital to remain at the junior market?
Well, it is more when you say the share capital, we're talking in terms of the number. So it's not so it's not the number of issued shares that is tied to whether you stay on the market or not. It's the value that you're raising. So as we know, the junior market rules, it's a minimum of 50 million in terms of cash consideration with a maximum of 500 million. At iCreate at the moment, we have issued paid up capital of 200 million. What's the number in terms of our market value? So the amount of shares that we've raised 70 million in the IPO, and then we've done 18.3 from Kenter Holdings and 50.5 from the equity. So that have taken us to 100 and about 40 million thereabout in terms of dollar value. So we have another 360 million cash. And as we can see, what we're raising at the moment will take us over that 500 million. So if we look at the 100 million from Abaddon and 70 million from Kenter Holdings, that will bring us up significantly close to the 500 million. And then the additional amount that we're raising in terms of the rights issue, that will take us over the 500 million as per the Jamaica Stock Exchange rules. So as we know, once you're over that amount, you'll have to work through with the regulators on the next move for the company, whether it's remain on the market, on the junior market, or graduate to the senior market. So we're not there yet as a team, as a board, but subsequent communications will explain that to our shareholders in market filings. It's clear? Thank you. No, it's not an automatic. There are companies who have gone through their kind of. You can let you in this person come up here. 1 second. Try the next one. Oh, okay. Yeah. There are companies who have pretty much, from a regulator perspective, passed that. And it's a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange that you have to work through. I won't disclose what our desire is at the moment, but it's something that once we finalize on the rights issue, we'll see where we are, we look at the implications and so forth, and then we'll make a decision as a board, communicate that with the market, and then make a determination. But what we know for sure is that we'll be over the 500 million. As we know, the stock exchange has since written to the Minister of Finance to increase the maximum funds that you can raise on the market. So I'm not sure where that is, but that is something we're observing at the moment. I think it's an additional 2 million in terms of the amount. So we'll see where that is. Hopefully we have some communication so that we can make a determination on that. And hopefully it's retroactive. Faith.
Any other questions? Are there any other questions? Okay, I'll invite now a motion for the termination of the meeting. Okay, we have a motion. May I have your name, please, sir? Dane Warren. Okay, motion from Dane Warren. A second. Sorry, your name, sir? Lamsel Bloomfield. Okay. Lansel Bloomfield, thank you very much for the second. Okay. So, as we thank you very much. Again, thank you very much for your participation, and we look forward to your continued participation in the growth of iCreate Limited. Have a very good day. Thank you.
We're good. All right. So what we're gonna do here, I'm Jermaine from Learn Grow Invest, and we're gonna be asking Tyrone Wilson some questions coming out of the EGM that has just concluded. So Tyrone, we have some questions that were in the chat just now. So we're just gonna go through them, answer as much as we can. So let's start with. All right. Let me just scroll through here. Okay, so I see a question here from Youth Advocate. Why a discount to Astronomical Holdings and not and a premium to Kintail?
Okay, good question. That's just to balance the the equation to ensure that whatever rights we're giving to both entities is the same rights that the shareholders will be getting
Okay.
with the discount. So in the rights issue circular, there will be details as to what price we're doing the rights issue at, but I can say it's a significant yield for the existing shareholders.
Okay. Okay. All right. Question here from Chantel. Will acquisition open a new offering for media and marketing courses, or is its acquisition strictly on the basis of having an asset capable of continuous revenue and generating profitability?
No, good question. As a group of companies, really, we're looking at synergies across a group, across iCreate. So anything that we're doing is going to benefit training, it's going to benefit advertising, it's going to benefit media. Everything that we're doing as a digital and creative group is to ensure that there are synergies. And that's one of the things that one of the boxes we try to tick when we're making an acquisition. We have a kind of checklist and we look at the synergies that it creates across the group is very important.
Okay. Okay. Latoya is asking, are you open to partnering with creatives to expand visual vibes?
Yeah, definitely. One of the big parts of visual vibe that we're looking to do is to ensure that we create content that will connect with audiences across Jamaica. So it's not going to be one of the first thing I can promise with a visual vibe is how we'll utilize the screens and the reach to ensure that we connect with individuals with content, not just advertising content, but original content, short form content that can bring knowledge, education, bring vibes, just everything. We're sticking straight to the brand value and so forth. So it will open up a new type of outdoor advertising at Visual Vibe.
Okay, that's interesting. It's interesting. All right. So question here from Odin. Are the loan converted shares subject to a lockout period?
No. Typically on the market, we try not to do so. But what I can say is that our investors, Dequity, Kenter Holdings, eMedia, and ASH, that will be coming on, are in it for the long run. Where they're not looking to buy and sell. They like the vision of the company. They've invested their money, and they want to see us realize our long-term goals of iCreate. So the idea is to build out this thing, and be massive in the Latin America and Caribbean markets. And it's a long road to go. There's a lot more acquisition move. There's a lot more mergers. There's a lot more joint venture that will keep us busy over the next couple of years. And our investors that we have now, our key investors, eMedia Interactive Group, Kente Holdings, ASH, Dequity, are all in it, to ensure that we realize that vision of becoming a strong digital and creative group within the Caribbean and Latin America.
Okay. So there are a couple of questions that came in from our Telegram group as well.
Yeah, man.
I know
Sure,
one
I'd
of them
love to
that
answer them.
persons were asking about the 2-for-1, the 2-to-1 strategy that you mentioned in
Yes.
January.
Mhm.
How are things in terms of?
So our real estate acquisition forms a critical part of that. We're still, we're still working through and looking at ensuring that we deliver on that. If it's not the 2 million US, it's the 1 million profit side of it and so forth. We have some gains that we can book based on real estate acquisition, based on visual vibe acquisition and so forth. So if we're keeping close to that, we have 2 quarters to go. And we're monitoring it, and if there's any misalignment or adjustments that we have to make, we're going to make that, but also communicate clearly what the new plan is and what the future plan is to achieve that type of performance.
Okay, but you'd say at this current point you're on track to still get to that
With the million
two
euros,
to one?
yes.
All right. So next question then would be in terms of so talk to me a little bit more about the real estate project. So you when we did an interview earlier this year, you mentioned that project was you were about to start it, I believe. What's the state of the specifically now the real estate project?
Well, all the approvals have been received. We have one minor adjustment in terms of that. We've started the infrastructure work on the site, and we're planning to break ground in September. It's a small project. It's 8 units, 3 1-bedroom, 3 2-bedroom, 2 3-bedroom. It's We've secured all the financing, all the equity financing, debt financing on the project, and we'll be announcing soon, maybe within September, to the market where that is concerned.
So if you break ground in September, when are you expecting to complete by the end of the year?
Yeah, well, practical completion can be received. We have all the reservation in terms of purchases already for those 8 units. All the purchasers have sent in whether deposits and so forth. We can't really take deposits like full deposit and payment, but they're pretty much securing, lock me in, I want to buy this unit. And most of those purchasers are individuals who are really involved in the project and so forth. It's a quick project, and that is why we are decided to invest in it at iCreate.
Okay. So there was a question regarding the delivery of the previous year that were coming out of that annual report. Any updates on that?
Yeah, that should be out within 4 weeks. And then
4 weeks from today?
right, and then our AGM about 30 days after they're about. What we didn't want is especially because of you realize the EGM today is almost like an AGM in terms of us reporting to the shareholders and the status of the company. We want to create a little space in between.
Okay. All right. So I see a few more questions here in terms of YouTube. Akeem is asking what level of debt is still on the balance sheet after the acquisition and what percentage growth is projected for the next 5 years. Yeah, yeah, we don't have the statements here with us. I don't know
Yeah,
if you can
but
speak to.
yeah. The only debt that we really have now is the Sagicor bond, which we've started paying principal, right? So it was initial 24 million. I think we've paid about 3 to 4 million already. So we're looking at another 20 that will be closed out in the rights issue. So we're not looking to have any debt at this point in time, but as it relates to the expansion of Visual Vibe, we might do some of that through debt financing.
Okay, okay. All right. So Muscle Memory is asking when is the right issue? Is there a specific timeline?
The rights issue circular is being prepared. We had a review yesterday with the team, our attorneys, VM Wealth. We're expecting to submit pretty soon. And what I can say is that we're looking to close this acquisition by the end of September. That is a hard target, a hard date that we'll have, and that will give some indication as to the timeline. But it is right around the corner.
Okay. All right. Let me do a quick check here to see if there are any more questions that came in. All right. Not seeing any. So what I'd probably want an update from you on now is what's happening on the core business side for iCreate. How are things on that side? Because we've heard a lot about Visual Vibes, some of those acquisitions that have taken place. But what about the core business for iCreate? How is that doing?
Yeah, going well. The institute is still a critical part of what we do, but in terms of this kind of transformation into a digital and creative conglomerate, at this point in time, there will be further communication as to what our core business is. As you can see, we're expanding aggressively. So it's a constant conversation at the strategic level. We're having a management retreat this weekend to look at the completion of this year and next year and really see what the build-up will be like. We're going through a change in terms of our vision statement or mission statement, even a possible slight adjustment in name to incorporate group, because that's what we're becoming now.
Okay. Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions from YouTube? One second here. All right, 1 second. I'm just trying to load the questions here. Okay, so a question from Roper Development. I think we kind of answered it in some of the earlier questions. They were asking about how are you tracking towards a 1 million USD profit and how is the real estate project? We touched on both of those.
Right, we touch on those.
Marva is asking if there's any time frame to improve the negative retained earnings line.
No, I wouldn't give any specific time frame, but those negative retained earnings were accumulated between 2019 and 2021. It won't take us that long to clear that off, as you can see in terms of where we are on these mergers and acquisitions and so forth. So chances are it might be cleared off by the end of next year.
Okay. All right. Is there any time? This is from DeAndrea Smith. Is there any time in the future where you guys will be selling any preference shares?
I can't give any specific timeline, but what I know is that based on all the plans that we have in terms of mergers, acquisitions, and so forth, we're looking at a number of different financing techniques, and preference share is one that we do like. So we're not ruling that out for sure.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I think that's it for questions. Is there anything that you'd want to say to your shareholders? Anything in closing?
No, just want to thank all our shareholders for the support over the years. iCreate has really delivered for our shareholders this year, not just in terms of the turnaround, in terms of the company, but or stock price movements. I got the opportunity to meet a few of our shareholders today, and people are keen, very keen on the company. They've been watching the company. I know sometimes there's a lot of talk in terms of fundamentals, this, fundamentals, that, but there are a number of reasons why people purchase stocks, and the fundamental financials is only one element. There are a number of other reasons why people purchase stocks, and acquisition announcement, a new financing. We saw Bed Bath and Beyond stock increase significantly this week, only because the company announced that they've gotten new significant investment to expand or to clear off some of their debt. So there's a number of reasons, and our shareholders at iCreate, I do realize their decision to invest is based on a myriad of reasons, and they're watching the company closely, and I'm always available to really clarify and deal with issues. This is an EGM, and we're really running it like an AGM. That is how interested we are in terms of shareholder disclosures and so forth, and we want to keep that going at iCreate. Is a big part of what I want iCreate to be as a publicly traded company operated by what I would say the new generation of entrepreneurs, right? And we have to operate very differently on the market. People decide to invest their money, hard-earned money, in us. I think the least we can do is to be as transparent as possible and communicative, so that people can understand where we are, where we're going, especially in the tough times, but most importantly also in the good times, because it's the good times we tend to get complacent and don't feel the need to communicate with our shareholders. And that's not what we're doing at iCreate. We're being very transparent on all social media platforms, in the WhatsApp groups, in the Telegram groups. We're keeping communication open. And I think it's very important for us as I say, as a new company led by the next generation of entrepreneurship in Jamaica.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Tyrone. Really do appreciate it. So I know that we'll be hearing from you soon. Looking out for those notices that you promised. So yeah, thanks again.